On August 10th, 1996, a family of three, known as the Duke family, went on a lovely trip to Green River, Wyoming. Unfortunately, this peaceful family outing soon turned into a terrible tragedy that left investigators in shock as they struggled to uncover the mystery behind it. 22-year-old Liana Duke and her 5-year-old son Erik tragically fell from a 200-foot cliff in Sweetwater County. Liana's husband and Erik's father, Mr. James Robert Bob Duke, reported the incident to the authorities. But when officers arrived, it was too late. As investigations began, a detective named Mon Mean strongly believed that the deaths of Liana and her son were not accidental. However, to prove it, he needed to answer two critical questions. Who would want to kill a young mother and her child, and what could they gain from their deaths? Hello, everyone. I'm Grace, and today we are going to explore the twisted case of Bob Duke, unveiling the mystery behind this heartbreaking incident. With that said, let's begin the story. It all started in the Green River, a beautiful city in the state of Wyoming known for its rivers, wildlife, and big cliffs. Green River is home to about 11,825 people, and its main town, Sweetwater County, is precisely where our story begins. Born on January 4th, 1974, as Liana Davidson to Ralph Wayne Davidson and Rosalie West Davidson, Liana was a quiet and smart child who excelled academically. She later grew into a beautiful young woman with long brown hair. Although Liana had plans to finish high school and attend college, everything changed when she met Robert Bob Duke at a very young age. They began dating when Liana turned 17 and spent most of their time together. Liana became pregnant while still very young and was afraid to tell her parents, who were Mormons. Eventually, both families found out and insisted the couple do the right thing. After graduating high school, Liana and Bob got married on May 25th, 1991. Liana accepted the fact that she wouldn't go to college and focused on her new role as a wife and mother. Shortly after their marriage, Liana gave birth to Erik Robert Duke on August 8th, 1991. Despite being young, Liana was a loving and responsible mother. She stayed home to care for Erik and maintain their home while Bob worked. In her free time, she enjoyed crafting and dreamed of opening her own craft store. Everything seemed perfect on the surface, but one person always bothered Liana: Bob's best friend, Roger Brower. They had been friends since middle school, but Roger was involved with drugs, which worried Liana. She voiced her concerns to Bob, but he didn't listen and maintained the friendship. Eventually, Liana gave up, trying to change their relationship. Years passed. Erik turned 5, and just a few days later, on August 10th, 1996, they planned a family outing along the river in Sweetwater County. What they didn't know was that this innocent trip would end in tragedy. Lieutenant Kevin Alvester from the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Department was on patrol that day when he received a 911 call. A man reported that his wife and child had fallen off a cliff. The call came from Lost Dog Road, a dusty trail in the desert leading to a steep cliff. When Lieutenant Alvester arrived at the scene, he was met with horror. Liana and her son Erik lay lifeless at the bottom of the cliff, their bodies broken among the rocks. They had fallen 200 feet. Bob Duke was also at the scene and recounted what had happened. He said they had gone for a drive and stopped at several places. At the cliff, Erik and Liana were playing, throwing rocks and chasing lizards, when Bob went back to the car for a soda. When he returned, they were gone. But something about Bob's demeanor raised red flags for Alvester. Bob appeared calm, too calm for someone who had just lost his entire family. Bob claimed he couldn't climb down the cliff to help, but said he could hear Erik choking on blood. Yet, when first responders arrived, they descended the cliff easily. Why didn't Bob? Why stop at such a dangerous location if he wasn't familiar with it? Even more strange, when Liana and Erik's bodies were brought up, Bob showed little emotion. He didn't reach out to them or cry. All of this made the lieutenant deeply suspicious, and he hoped further investigation would uncover the truth. News of the tragedy spread quickly through Green River. While many people, including police officers, believed it was an unfortunate accident, detectives continued digging. They found no evidence of foul play. The autopsies confirmed death by falling, and eventually the case was declared accidental. Bob Duke was cleared of suspicion. Liana and Erik's funeral was attended by many. Bob even carried Erik's coffin. The two were buried together in a cemetery overlooking the town. In 1998, Bob moved to Austin, Texas to live with his brother Mike and start fresh. But one detective, Mon, couldn't let the case go. Something about it just didn't sit right with him. He kept digging, quietly and persistently. Then, in 1999, 2.5 years after the deaths, Mean got a shocking call from Roger Brower. Roger was panicking and said someone was going to kill him. After calming him down, Roger revealed something that would crack the case wide open. Roger confessed that Bob had contacted him several times, initially asking for a gun for security work. Then Bob made a shocking offer, $220,000 to help him kill his own parents for insurance money. Roger said no, but then he remembered a conversation from July 1996. Bob had offered him $115,000 to kill Liana and Erik. Roger thought it was a sick joke until Bob returned a few days later with a detailed plan. He wanted Roger to shoot him in the arm, then kill Liana, Erik, and even neighborhood kids to make it look like a random attack. Roger refused, but Bob kept pushing. Detective Mean was stunned. He contacted the FBI, and they began recording Bob's calls. In one recording, Bob discussed the plan to kill his parents for money. Soon, both Bob and his brother Mike were arrested and charged with conspiracy to murder their parents. While in prison, Bob's past finally caught up with him. With this new evidence, Detective Mean reopened the case against Bob for the deaths of Liana and Erik. In 2002, Bob stood trial. The prosecution took the jury to the cliff to show just how dangerous and isolated it was, making it clear this was no family picnic spot, but a death trap. Roger testified against Bob, even as the defense tried to discredit him because of his past drug use. Bob's lawyer argued there were no eyewitnesses, no murder weapons, just accusations and speculation. But the prosecution brought forth inconsistencies in Bob's story. They showed he claimed he couldn't climb the cliff, yet others had. They highlighted his emotionless reaction. And finally, a woman named Crystal Robinson testified. She had a relationship with Bob when she was just 13 and said Bob told her he wanted out of his marriage and didn't want to pay child support. After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury found Bob guilty on all charges. On September 25, 2002, he was sentenced to life in prison. Liana's parents were relieved and thanked Roger for speaking up. Bob Duke is currently serving his sentence in a Wyoming state prison. So, what do you think about this case? Do you believe Bob pushed his family, or is there any chance he was innocent? Let us know in the comments section below. If there are any other cases you'd like us to cover, share them with us. Stay safe, and thank you for watching.